In this video, I'm going to give you a summary of this book, The Compound Effect. I'm going to share with you my top 3 takeaways from this book. But first, let me break down what the compound effect is so that you can put it into action immediately. So let's go ahead and get right to it. So first, the compound effect is what one of my mentors described as the path to success. The way that it looks is basically a prolonged, consistent effort directed towards one thing in one direction over a long period of time. Now, there's a part right about here that I'm going to call the wall. And this is basically right about the part where you start to reach momentum in whatever area you're looking for success. And it's basically right about the same time where you begin to hit a wall. And the real challenge, I guess, when it comes to applying the compound effect is understanding that initially what the compound effect really looks like is really a series of basically committing to taking one small, seemingly insignificant step done consistently over time until you begin to lift off, right? When you begin to jumpstart and basically see the effects, I guess, of the compound effect. And so the challenge, though, is how can you make sure that all these steps that you're taking a little bit at a time, which don't seem like they're working at first, how do you do that long enough so that you can actually begin to see the results of the compound effect? So let me give you an example. So this can apply for business. It can apply for health. It can apply for relationships. I'm going to give you a health example. I actually went on a journey where I did fasting with green juice. And so the routine was basically simple. I basically just had to drink green juice every day until I basically started to see some positive health benefits. But here's the deal. When I first started, I'd never done fasting before. I never really skipped a meal in my life before. And so for me to go even 1 hour without food was just, just sounded horrible, I guess. And so imagine before I actually got to see some positive results, it was really about 4 to 5 days. And really I set a goal to do 3 days, right? So 1 hour was really for me like that's almost like too much. So how do I go hour after hour after hour choosing to not have any solid food and basically just drink nothing but green juice, right? We're talking about like 72 hours. Right, but that's basically what I had to go through, where like the entire time here, I didn't really feel any benefits. I didn't really see any results. If anything, I may have even felt like a little bit nauseous, a little bit weak, and almost like it was being counterproductive, but I kept going. And so I'm using that as an analogy because this can apply for other things. Let's say you want to learn how to play, music. You pick up a guitar or piano and you start practicing scales. And first you can barely position your fingers right, and your timing is totally off and horrible. But if you keep practicing over and over and over and over, eventually you come to a point where your music or the sounds that you're playing begin to make sense and actually sound like a melody. In business, if you're starting a new business, maybe it is a matter of you showing up, whether it's through marketing or doing social media or whatever. You may have to do that over and over and over, and you may not see results for, who knows, a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months, maybe longer. But how do you stick with it long enough for you to actually begin to see results and basically hit this magical area called momentum? So that's what we're going to talk about. And so basically it starts with this. You first have to make your choices, and then your choices make you. So what this is talking about is that before you set out on a new journey, whether it's a health journey like fasting, music, business, or something like that, what you first have to do is think about and remember that every hour every minute you're going to be facing a decision, where it's business, like, okay, do you want to go sit around and watch TV? That's a choice. Or would you rather go put in some work into the business, whether that is writing a blog post or maybe showing up on social media or making a phone call, whatever that choice is. What happens is that if you establish a habit, if you establish some sort of routine, and you must think of this routine and or habit as something that you're going to do well past when you go through momentum, when you hit the wall. Basically, you're looking at this as a long-term game. That's where this becomes important, is you're going to make your choices. So you think about this, because your habits is really what's going to give you the end result that you're looking for. And understand that these choices, whether it is, practicing, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, in music, or, choosing to eat the healthy meal versus the not so healthy meal, all of those choices are simple to do, but they're also simple not to do. And this is a key thing to understand, that the compound effect doesn't always just work in your favor. The compound effect is always at work. And so the question is, whether are you making it work in your favor, or by choosing to do the right activities, which are simple to do, or is the compound effect working against you because you're choosing not to do the simple activities, like your habits and routines that will actually guide you towards the direction that you're looking for, success, right? And so once you begin to understand that the compound effect is at work no matter what, then what you can begin to do to make the compound effect work for you is to begin to track your habits and basically try to figure out what is it that you do day in and day out unconsciously. So it could be that, for health, you wake up and first thing you do is you maybe, go to the bathroom, and then after that you go find something to eat. That could be maybe what your morning routine is like, and it's just unconsciously that's basically what you're doing. And I'm saying this from experience because this is what I used to do. Well, as I started to track what I was doing, what I realized was that I could create a better habit, that instead of waking up and first thing I wanted to do was to go eat, my habit was that I would wake up and the first thing that I would do is I would basically chug a quart size of water. So I would grab a mason jar, basically quart size, and that's the first thing that I would do, and that created a habit. And again, I did that day after day after day after day, and at first it didn't really seem like it was making much of a difference, but then it got to a point, after a couple of months of me doing that, where I started to notice significant changes in my energy levels and how much more awake and focused I was in the morning, just by creating a simple habit and getting into a routine of just drinking water first thing in the morning. So that's where tracking your habits comes in. And once you understand this, and you understand the formula for the compound effect, which is basically creating positive habits and then doing those habits consistently over a prolonged period of time. So whether it's for health, music, or business, if for business, if it's you showing up on social media every day, you do that day after day after day after day. So you create a habit of showing up. You do it consistently day after day after day after day, and then you just have to give it time so that you can see momentum and begin to see the results of the compound effect. Now, here is the thing about momentum. This is usually about the time where you begin to hit a wall. You might begin to see results, but by then you may be worn out, or you may be feeling like, maybe this is not what I really want, which is really a bigger problem. But any kind of success story that you're going to hear, there's usually something that happens that is going to be blocking you from success. And the important thing about establishing good habits and routines, like I said, is about a long-term game. And here's what I guess the real lesson with this is. When I was in real estate, I got into a habit of advertising on a newspaper. So this may show my age, but I started advertising on a newspaper every weekend. Had a little classified ad, and basically home buyers will call me up, and I would basically get clients that way. And so every weekend I had an ad going up. And so what happened was that after a while of me advertising and getting clients, it got to the point where I was getting more referrals than I could, with referrals and all of that, I was having more business that I could even handle. And so I essentially stopped doing the things that got me to momentum. I stopped doing the things that got me to where I was at, that got me successful. So when it comes to health, for example, I actually, after my fasting, I started intermittent fasting every day. And for me, intermittent fasting has been a health habit that I created, and it's something that I've done ever since. I've basically been intermittent fasting for about 7 years now, and this is basically why, for me and my health has been constantly improving, and it's because I continue to do the same habit that got me towards momentum in the very beginning. And so understand that the difference between people who really see the results of the compound effect are the people who not only create the habits and the routines that basically get them to see the results of the compound effect, but not only that, they continue to do the same habits and routines after they achieve the so-called success. So in other words, let's say that as a real estate agent, I got to a 6-figure income. That was, for me, hey, I've made it, right? I got to 6 figures, but then I stopped doing the activity. Guess what happened to my success? It plummeted right back down. And so understanding the compound effect is basically about understanding that it is always at work, and it's understanding that you're not going to just do one thing and then all of a sudden you're going to get to a place where you just stop doing. No, it's really about choosing a long-term gain where you know that this level, when you get here, there's going to be a new level, and in order for you to get to the new level, you're going to go through a new set of skills that you're going to learn, and you're going to go through the compound effect all over again. And that's essentially what success really looks like. You never really get to a destination. You just find that you have another gear, another level to get to. So that's the importance of hitting the wall. And once you begin to understand that you're going to be constantly hitting a wall, you're going to be constantly be challenged and basically having to find a new level, a new thing to achieve, then what really becomes important is understanding that what is going to drive you once you get to your so-called levels of success, so that you don't fall back to where, places where you may not want to, is having a big reason why. Now, one of the things that I like about the way that this book describes, your big why, is he says, what if I give you $20 to walk across a plank that is, let's say about, 2 feet wide, right? So you get $20. You get $20 if you walk across this plank. Well, most people will be like, that's, it's easy. You just kind of like walk across. But now, what if that plank is sitting in between two, I don't remember how many stories, but let's say 100-story tall building. There's 2 buildings. And, now would you walk across that plank? Well, now all of a sudden $20 is not enough because of the risk of falling from 100 stories down. But what if this building here is on fire? Let's pretend that's fire. And your baby, your kid, is over here. Would you walk across to rescue him? At that point, the $20 becomes irrelevant, and now you have a big reason why you would do it. And so this was a way to illustrate that if you are looking for success, whether that is you want to play music, you want to be a master at it, if you don't have a big reason why, chances are that you're going to practice and get to a point where you hit a wall. And so all the habits and routines that you may have established up until that point, it is very unlikely that you continue to do those long after you get to these levels. And it's basically one of the same reasons why. And I would say that for me, when I was in real estate, once I started making basically a good income where I was making more in a month than I was used to making in a year, I basically realized that the things that I was doing, the habits and or routines, or I would say actually that at first I thought I was doing this because I was in a way chasing money, but I didn't really have a big reason why other than that. And this is where life started to become a little bit unfulfilling. And so in order for me to have been able to basically keep going, I would have had to find something different. I would have had to find a big reason why I should keep doing the same habits and routines that I was doing. Health, same thing. The only reason why I was able to do a fast, which by the way, I don't think I mentioned this, but when I did my 3-day fast, that was because I had health issues. I had a lot of health issues that I wanted to really solve. And so at about day 4 or 5, I hit this wall. And it was basically also where I hit momentum, where I started to see results and benefits from doing my fasting. And I had a big reason why I was doing my fasting. At the time, I was basically facing a lot of fatigue, brain fog. I mean, my hair was falling off. There was a lot of things that were happening where I knew my health was not right. And so I really wanted to just get my life back more than anything. I had a really strong reason why. And so I didn't stop at day 3 because once I started to see results, my big why kicked in, and I basically kept up that habit, and I ended up doing 90 days. Lost about 40 pounds, got my energy back, and have not looked back since. I completely transformed my health, and it's because I put the compound effect to use. This is before I read the book, by the way, but now that I've read the book, I see it clearly, and this is exactly how it happened, was that I just decided and committed to doing that fasting day after day after day consistently over a prolonged period of time. So those are some examples, I guess, that I can share with you from my own personal life. And so once you understand that if you commit to one small, seemingly insignificant step done consistently over time, and you do it over and over and over and over and over again until you hit that momentum and then go well past that momentum phase, just continue to do it past the wall, you increase and or find a big reason why you're going to do all of this, then you're going to experience the compound effect. So that is essentially what the compound effect is, and it's how you put it into action. Start tracking your habits, figure out which of your habits are taking you and moving you towards the direction that you want to go. Get rid of any habits that are not moving you in that direction. And as you identify those positive habits, consistency and time are really the only thing standing in between you experiencing the results that you're looking for in your life, whether it's business, health, or relationships, or anything else. That is how you put the compound effect to use. I hope you got value from this video. If you did, then please like it, leave me a comment, let me know your number 1 takeaway, and as always, don't forget to share the video. I appreciate all of you who do so. Thank you, and talk to you later.